Thank you, John. Good evening, everybody. As John said, I'm here to take you through the media landscape in Ireland and how it's being disrupted, and how media, as a result, needs to be disruptive to stay relevant to brands, and so that you can actually stand out from the crowd. So I think not too many of us in this room are familiar with this particular scenario. Way back when you could see the power of TV and a family sitting around the TV set intently focused on the moving images on the screen, and even a newspaper makes an appearance in this scene, which again is probably a little bit different to the likes of today. But back then it actually was quite a simple task for brands to connect with customers. The task was really about coverage, so getting people to hear and see your ad, and then about frequency, so getting people to hear and see your ad a certain number of times. Fairly straightforward, and brands had a lot of power and impact to influence people. Nowadays, we're kind of moving more towards a scene such as this. Hopefully you're familiar with the sitcom Modern Family, and it's very typical of what we all experience in our daily lives. A family sitting around the kitchen table, multi-screens across multiple devices, and they're portable. So they could be sitting in the kitchen, or some could be sitting in the sitting room or the bedroom. You know, they're accessing information all the time in different places and in different scenarios. And the challenge moves away from coverage and frequency and starts to become eclipsed by engagement and really getting people to participate with your brand, and then targeting them at the right time with the right message and within the right context as well. So to give a little bit more of the context of the media landscape in Ireland, so we've estimated that from 2010 right through to 2016, there's a shift in how the media mix is being spent by brands. So what you're looking at here is the top row of purple is press spend in the market, followed by TV in blue, radio in yellow, outdoor cinema and online. And really the main things to kind of point out from this chart are that overall media spend has increased over the last 6-year period by about 10%, and online has increased significantly, nearly doubling. But I suppose one point is that even though spend in online and TV are actually increasing, they're still not commensurate with the amount of time people are spending in that media. So, you know, brands still aren't really existing in those two spaces in particular as much as consumers are existing in those two spaces. And as a result of that increase in spend and an increase in access to information and content, there's just so much clutter. And again, looking at the data that we have, we've seen and estimated that since 2007 up to this point today, there's been a 77% increase in ad clutter. So an increase in the number of ads that the average person is seeing every day. And that is not going to stop. So, you know, the challenge for all of us is how do we, you know, put our heads above the parapet and stand out from all that noise and all that clutter. And Eric Schmidt actually put it, just to kind of, I suppose, sum it up really, the former CEO of Google, every 2 days we create as much information as we did from the dawn of civilization up until, you know, 2003. And then you layer advertising on top of that, and it just becomes a whole lot of noise that becomes very difficult for customers and consumers to really kind of connect with any brands. So I suppose in Radical and also in our wider group, Core Media, we believe that one way that you can stand out is actually to create experiences. An example here is just, you know, the colour run. I suppose to illustrate that an experience is personal, even though it can be shared with people. It's rare, you know, it's not a commodity. Not everyone gets to experience something. It can be shared with people. As I said, it is rare, and it just means that it allows people to participate and engage with you. So if you are a brand and you can create an experience, it's so much more meaningful than just putting, you know, your content or your ad in front of your potential customer. So the video that I'm going to show now just gives a very small example of how an iced tea brand in South Africa, they wanted to sample their product. So they didn't just hand it out on the street. you know, they decided to use a small experience to kind of make that connection even greater with their customers.
Enjoy your post-iced human.
You know, that encourages engagement. It creates a meaningful experience. People are sharing it on Twitter, and it's just driving a deeper connection rather than simple sampling of a product. So just to talk a little bit about the consumer journey, because, you know, we talk to clients a lot about this, and, you know, they're so interested in finding out more about the customer journey and what does the day in the life look like, and to put it in a very linear format. You know, in the morning times, customers and consumers are on their phones and they're maybe on their way to work, and they pass by out of home ads. And it is quite linear, but you can see the commonality there is mobile. You know, really people are on their mobiles at all times of the day, and they're also on their mobiles in conjunction with consuming other media, whether it be outdoor or radio or TV. But really kind of it's moved on from that, and online has really forced us to move out of this linear frame of mind into a more complex and dynamic environment. And Google summed it up a few years ago by calling it ZMOT. So some of you may be familiar with ZMOT, or the zero moment of truth. There's a lot of literature about it online, but it's really about the experience that people have before they even walk into a store or before they experience your product. And it's how they interact and research your product online by searching through the content that you have, and that it's so important to be relevant at the zero moment of truth before somebody walks into a store to buy your product, or before they even try it out. So there's a short video here that may or may not work to explain it.
Marketers have been using a three-step mental model of marketing for a long time. Stimulus, like developing a TV ad. Shelf, focusing on point of sale, which has historically been called the first moment of truth. And experience, people take the product home and experience it. They could have a good experience or a bad experience, and they share it. This is the second moment of truth. If marketers spend time on these three steps, they should succeed, right? We investigated this theory. We conducted a comprehensive study with research partner Shopper Sciences using 5,000 shoppers across 12 categories, from groceries to cars and financial products. The goal, show where influence takes place as shoppers move from undecided to decided. We found that the average shopper used 10.4 sources of information, up from 5.3 sources in 2010. We asked shoppers what sources they used to make decisions, when they used it, and how influential is each source. When we lined up their responses, a fourth step appeared in the marketing mental model, the zero moment of truth. This is when consumers do their research, get smart about alternatives, read reviews, look for coupons and comparison shop, all before going to the shelf. When we compare the steps, the zero moment of truth pops up as highly relevant and influential. Consumers have changed the way they have approached decision making. As a marketer, have you kept up, or are you still using the old mental model? There's a new mental model now, and marketers that can now keep all these steps spinning gain a very competitive advantage in today's marketplace.
I'll send on the link, and there's loads of information, as I said, about the zero moment of truth. But Google have kind of taken it a next further, and they've packaged it up as micro-moments. So in the zero moment of truth, people are researching online, but things in their everyday lives are prompting prompting them to research online. So there's want to know moments when they need to find out more about how to use a certain ingredient, for example, or there's want to go moments, they need to find directions somewhere. There's want to do moments, want to buy moments, and they're all micro moments that people are compelled to go online and to research at any moment of the day, through any device, in any place. And that's really where brands really need to operate now. And we need to focus on those micro moments. So, you know, the kind of things that we work with clients to do is to make a moments map. So can we kind of name all those small moments where our brand is going to be relevant to potential customers? Can we create content then to meet every single one of those micro moments? And how do we leverage the context that people are in? So are they on the go on their phones, and can we create content for that point in time? And then always measuring the micro moments. Are there more that we need to be aware of? And changing and testing all the time what we do. And that kind of brings me on to content, and really content is the backbone of the digital world. Media is content, and content is media. So having content as a brand that connects with your customers is so important. And I have a few kind of tips around, you know, creating that content and curating that content. And I'll go through each one of these and give you an example for each one. So the first one there is to be useful and engaging. And there really is no point in investing time and resource into creating content unless it's useful to your customers and unless you're encouraging them to participate with it. And this is a nice example from Hellmann's in Brazil, where they partnered with a grocery retailer to try and create content around their product that was also really useful to their customers.
Most people still think mayonnaise is only good for sandwiches. And even though Hellmann's has been successfully teaching new uses to consumers, one challenge still remained: the point of sale. We needed to take advantage of the moment when customers have all the right ingredients at hand. Hellmann's recipe receipt. If there's Hellmann's in your shopping cart, there's a recipe on your receipt. The software was installed in around 100 cash registers at a major supermarket chain. The consumers do their groceries as usual. At the cash register, the software recognizes the Hellmann's bag, quickly combines Hellmann's with other purchased products, and generates a custom recipe instantly printed on the receipt. Beef, onions, tomato, Hellmann's. Fill it with onion sauce. Chicken, parsley, curry, Hellmann's. Chicken fingers with curry. Manioc, sausage, egg, Hellmann's. Yucca balls.
Não, eu paguei, estava recebendo a nota fiscal e quando eu olhei já tinha uma receita da Hellmann's.
Filé de peixe com molho especial.
500 gramas de alcatra cortada em bifes,
Uma colher de chá de sal.
meia xícara de maionese Hellmann's.
Temos alface, é exatamente o que eu tô levando. É muito engraçado.
Pronto, meu jantar está resolvido.
The software was installed in all cashiers for over 3 months. In the first month alone, the sales increased 44% and thousands of recipes were printed, teaching people how to use Hellmann's to prepare salads, meats, sauces, pastas, and even sandwiches.
You can see how that's extremely useful to customers. Now I understand that's probably a big investment in terms of creating content, but you can also, with very little budget, actually create content that people online still want to engage with. And this is an example from Spar Ireland. We've kind of found that really socially active people, their attention span lasts no longer than about 7 seconds. So when we are creating video content, 7 seconds is really that magic number to try and get your message across and to connect with people. And this is a really lovely 7-second video from Spar where they take their own brand cookies, They simply show how you can make an ice cream cookie in 7 seconds. And it got so much engagement on Facebook from customers and potential customers. It auto-played in their Facebook feed, so it kind of drew their attention. And really simple. And I suppose another important thing to note with video content online is that the production quality doesn't need to be very, very sharp. You know, people online are okay with, you know, production quality video that's not highly professional. They're used to it. So another kind of tip is bite-sized content and video. As you can see from the video, it's such a popular way to visualize content and to get across information. So video really is key, and bite-sized video. And next, thinking mobile, you know, that it's no surprise to everybody, but these stats here show that of the amount of viewing time that people spend now, nearly 50% of it is on mobile, so either on smartphone or on tablets. So they're watching their normal programming or catch up on mobile. So again, any content that you create or any experience that you create should be mobile optimized and accessible through mobile. Being agile is so important as well when you're online. So much happens that brands could nearly ride on the back of. So again, you're not having to invest lots of time and effort in content. You're just there when lots of conversation is happening. And you're probably all very familiar with how Oreo did that when the power outage happened in the Super Bowl. And they were ready to go with a very simple image on Twitter, referencing the power outage and connecting their brand to it. So a simple idea, but they got so much reach and engagement from it because they were timely and agile with producing their content. You can even go so far as producing product, you know, that actually connects with the times and the conversation of the time. So this was in the States when marriage equality was passed in some of the states, and Ben & Jerry's produced product to tie in with that. And owning the digital shelf is so important. So a lot of FMCG brands and food and drink brands don't use search because I suppose it's seen as being a very direct response piece of activity. But it can be used to drive brand awareness if you use it creatively, and also it can be done in a very cost-effective way. So this is a really nice example from Snickers, where they partnered with Google and collected data around search terms with Google. And I'll just show you a short video to show what it's all about.
Office workers, poor creatures, like Nick, in desperate need of snacks and entertainment. No wonder they make mistakes. But how do we target them when viral and social content is blocked by IT? Google! Google! As part of the Snickers You're Not You When You're Hungry campaign, we used Google to reach hungry people every time they made a spelling mistake and reminded them, you can't spell when you're hungry, so grab a Snickers. Fortunately for us, hungry people have a tendency to accidentally misspell words with embarrassing regularity. We worked with Google to find the top 500 search terms. Then we used an algorithm to create common misspellings of those 500. This expanded our list to 25,381 misspellings, which meant that in just over 2 days we reached our target of more than 500,000 people, including Nick, with minimal production cost and no seeding.
So it's a really inventive way, I suppose, of, you know, getting across a message and using search, which everybody does every minute of the day. And then finally, it's all about creating media synergies. I know that this session is about the digital opportunity, but digital is not the be-all and end-all, and that sounds strange coming from somebody like me who works in a digital agency, but it is all about, you know, the whole and creating synergies across all media touch points. This is an example from the UK where Lucozade Energy partnered their radio ads with their outdoor ads. So they knew when all the radio ad spots were being bought, and they synced the digital outdoor to the exact time that those radio ads were being bought. So as commuters drove by the outdoor ads, they also heard the same ad on the radio. And it's just a really nice way of kind of reinforcing the message and connecting the dots. So It's not just all about focusing on digital. If possible, you'll get better results by looking at the whole picture and all the possible touch points. So in a whirlwind tour of the do's and don'ts of content and some tips, I suppose really the media landscape has fragmented and become far more cluttered. So that's the challenge for brands nowadays. And really we believe that you can kind of overcome that challenge by creating experiences in so many different ways as well, and focusing on those micro moments. So kind of moving beyond the customer journey and trying to map out a typical customer journey. There really isn't one anymore. It is all about in that instant moment when somebody decides to look for something, your brand needs to be there with relevant content. So creating content that's useful and engaging and snappy, as I said. Number 5 there, thinking all about mobile. It really is at the heart of everything that we should be doing. Planning for agility to get really the most out of conversations that are happening in the online space. It's really important if you invest in content and experiences that they're discoverable by people, so that you own that digital shelf when people go to look for something that your brand can offer them. Digital doesn't win alone. It really is all about the multimedia mix, and leverage partnerships that you have. You know, you don't need to go it alone all the time and invest time and money yourselves. Partner with people, use their content, use their expertise, and then always test and learn, and don't be afraid to fail. It's okay to, you know, learn from something that hasn't worked, and move on and learn from it. So thank you, and I'll take questions later on.